Welcome. Happy Saturday? Happy Saturday afternoon. Hope everybody is doing well. I'm Dave Knapp, man on the Mounjaro. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen. Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, Mounjaro, Zepbound. That pen. That's why you're here. We're all here to learn a little bit more, like we always are. We're here to learn more about type 2 diabetes, obesity, all the metabolic illnesses that come along with that. And we're here to learn about specifically the UBS Biopharma conference this past week, where Eli Lilly broke some news. They had their incoming president of obesity and diabetes, Patrick Johnson, spoke, and he broke some news. This is live, so welcome to the stream. Anna, Donna, all up in the comments. Some of my faves are already here, so thank you for being here. We are live today talking about the UBS Biopharma conference and what Eli Lilly had to say at this conference, and I'm so excited to share a little bit with you. It's somewhat of a victory lap for me. I've been taking a couple of those lately with some of the news that's been coming out about Mounjaro, Tirzepatide, Zepbound, and so yeah, there's some exciting news, a lot of exciting things happening. And of course, when these biopharma or pharmaceutical conferences where Eli Lilly has little fireside chats come up, I like to just cover what's pertinent in the world of Mounjaro, or if you're looking at Mounjaro from the obesity side, it's now called Zepbound. So I hope that you all are doing well today. Welcome to those who are watching on Twitter and on Facebook. You can join my new Facebook group. It's called Zepbound for Weight Loss. If you are interested, if you're over on Facebook, join that group. It is growing by the minute, really, as more and more people look into Tirzepatide for weight loss, the game-changing medication, which it was, of course, a huge topic of conversation at this week's Biopharma conference held by UBS down in Miami, where, again, Patrick Johnson from Eli Lilly spoke. So just a few things, to kind of go over here. So Patrick Johnson, we covered this on the earnings call, but Patrick Johnson is the incoming president of obesity and diabetes who came over from immunology at Eli Lilly. And so Mike Mason was running that prior to, and he's retiring. And so now we got Patrick Johnson. So he's the one who spoke. And so we're going to cover what Patrick Johnson talked about, just to give you some information off the top. He talked a little bit about their rebrand strategy, what they're doing with the coupon, which of course we've talked about here, how they're getting accessibility and the PBMs on board for covering this medication. Talk a little bit about the Versanis acquisition and bimagrumab. So that was kind of some of the breaking news. So we'll get into that. And then we're also going to talk about, the really interesting part of this call to me, which is, how do you get this drug in the hands of patients? And that was really what the rebrand was all about. And so we'll talk about that today. But before we do, hit that like, hit that bell, hit that sub. We're going to bring in our friends at TikTok as well. If you are new here, put an N in the chat next to your name. Let me know that you're new here. I would love to say hello to you. And let me know Also, if you're new, what medication you're on. I'm always interested to know who is watching and what medication they're on and what kind of led them to find Man on the Mounjaro. So yeah, put an N in the chat if you're new. Let me know that you're here. I would love to meet with you. And again, special shout out to all up in the comments, Anna and Donna, all members of the channel. If you are interested in becoming a member of the channel, it's just a couple bucks a month you can throw my way for the work that I do over here at On the Pen with Man on the Mounjaro, and super easy to do. There should be a link in the description of this video where you can check that out, and easy peasy, right? So bear with me for 1 second while we bring in our friends from TikTok. And we'll get into it here shortly. Again, if you're new here, put an N in the chat next to your name. Let me know that you're new. If you're not new here, I'd love to hear from you as well. So let's talk a little bit. So some interesting news broke, right before Patrick Johnson came into talk to this member of UBS last week, again at the Biopharma conference that they held in Miami. And it was a very, very interesting conversation, to be sure. And the first thing that they got into was the approval of Mounjaro for Zepbound. Hey, Brent, thanks for being here, buddy. Good to have you here. Brent is a moderator over at the men's group on Facebook, the Mounjaro men's group, but also is helping me out on the Zepbound for weight loss. And another plug for that Facebook page. If you want to join a Facebook group and you're just joining Zepbound or you're on Mounjaro, Zepbound for weight loss. Sue the Dude's here. Thank you for being here today. All up in the comments, you're welcome. Thank you. And thank you for the gift on the video the other day. Thank you for that as well. So the news broke about the obesity indication being received for Tirzepatide or Zepbound. And so that was obviously a topic of the conversation. They talked a little bit about the pricing strategy of Zepbound, which is really interesting. I made a couple videos about this in the last couple of days. Very interesting to see where they priced it, which is 21% lower than where Wegovy is. So one of the things that we've been talking on this channel about for several months is the fact, well, honestly, for almost a year, is that as these new medications come online, you're going to see price pressure put on the existing medications, and competition tends to drive down price. Now, I know that that's not always the case in pharma. There's things that you can point to, but this is a great example. You have Tirzepatide, which as a molecule performed better in clinical trials than semaglutide did from a weight loss standpoint and a side effect tolerability standpoint, similar profile of side effect, but more tolerable on average. So you have arguably a better drug, a stronger drug, a drug that's actually different in that it acts on 2 receptors instead of 1, like Wegovy and Ozempic. And you would think that Lilly, and they even telegraphed early on that they thought that they could get a higher price per script for Tirzepatide, be it Mounjaro or Zepbound. And so what you actually saw them do at the end of the day was priced at 21% lower than Wegovy. So I think that's going to put price pressure on Novo Nordisk to bring down the price of Wegovy as well, which is great. And there's only more in the pipeline, and you're going to see your first GLP-1 generic hit the market in 2024 in the form of liraglutide, which you may know as Saxenda and Victoza. So more price pressure driving down. I'm sure Lilly considered all this because a huge topic of conversation was accessibility. How do you get the payers on board? How do you get the PBMs on board? And so that kind of led into the discussion about the rebrand. So, I was a big advocate just from a manufacturing standpoint. Hey, Stacy, welcome to the stream. We got some friends joining in on TikTok. Thank you for being here. We're covering the Eli Lilly president of immunology, who is soon to become the president of Lilly Diabetes and Obesity. Patrick Johnson was at the UBS Biopharma conference this past week and broke some news. And so we're just going over what he talked about. Right now, what we're talking about is the rebrand and how the rebrand was really about being able to do specific marketing to two different segments of the population, and really drawing a distinction between people with diabetes and people with obesity. Oftentimes you could see that there could be some overlap, but they found it very, very important from the payer side that they would release this at a price point that was I think, acknowledging the issue that insurance companies face with an influx of people on an expensive medication. Now, I just released a video today over on TikTok. It'll be hitting YouTube at some point here as well, but about how long-term this should drive down the cost of healthcare and shift those dollars to other things rather than make this more expensive. But in the meantime, Lilly acknowledging that it is going to be something to contend with insurance companies not wanting to foot the bill for this, and employers more specifically not wanting to foot the bill. So the price point, I believe, is very fair for the molecule, the breakthrough that it is, and the fact that using it is knocking on the door of bariatric surgery level results with a once weekly injection. So the dude has a question: would anybody delay a year of Social Security for Mounjaro assistance for the government? That is a fascinating question. That is a fascinating question. Matt has strong opinions. I'm not surprised by that. So just kind of moving on, that was a big part of the rebrand. And I think to be able to set that price point lower, right? And I think that's a great way, a great strategy on Lilly's part to extend an olive branch to the PBMs, the insurers, and the employers, because there's both sides in this need to move in order for the accessibility to increase. And at the end of the day, I think good employers will want good employees to have access to good medications. And I think at the end of the day, Lilly should also be rewarded as a company for developing a medication that is such a game changer for the world, to be honest with you. So that was kind of, the nature of the conversation. And really, they want to follow a similar model with the PBMs as far as getting adoption of the medication. They said that 85% of private insurance now has Mounjaro on their formulary, which is a really awesome thing, right? And they're hoping to follow that same kind of format with Zepbound and the obesity indication, and realizing that getting access to medication for obesity is uniquely different when it comes to working with PBMs than it is with a diabetes medication. So that was their explanation of the rebrand. I buy it. I think it was a good kind of context, way to contextualize for those of us who have cared and followed it very closely, why, some insight into why they made that decision. So very, very, very interesting from Patrick Johnson at Eli Lilly. So moving on in this discussion, they talked a little bit about orforglipron, right? And the interesting thing about the conversation about orforglipron from Patrick Johnson's perspective, which was a new perspective that I hadn't heard before in previous calls, was that the demand overseas, especially in single payer countries, is for the oral medications. Obviously, it's a cheaper medication to produce. It's easier to manufacture in quantity. And so when you talk about overseas markets, they tend to be more interested in getting the oral versions of this. So that's why, if you're looking at it from the investment side, I think that's probably why it was brought up here. For those who don't know, UBS is, I should have provided some context around this at the beginning of it, but UBS is a global financial services firm, and essentially they're known for their investment services. They have other branches of them, including, investment banking and retail banking. But they organize this biopharma conference and do it just so that the stakeholders in these companies can have an idea of what challenges the industry is facing and what, forward kind of looking things these companies that are dabbling in biopharma have to offer. So that's a little context around that. Sorry that I didn't give that a little bit earlier in the stream here. But orforglipron, I think, could low key be a really great supplement to the growth of GLP-1s. And I think it's sort of a dark horse as a medication. And they've also talked about Once you hit your weight loss goals with Zepbound, these oral options, whether you're talking about orforglipron from Eli Lilly. I know that Pfizer has one called danuglipron, however you say these names are ridiculous. I'm pretty sure they just designed them so that when a guy starts talking about them on YouTube that they sound stupid. But I digress. Or whether you're talking about Rybelsus, these are all going to be great options for not only increased accessibility, but for maintenance as well. So something to keep in the back of your mind. So the next thing that they talked about, and this was where to me there was breaking news, right? Because I don't think, and I was trying to jog my memory, and I didn't have time to go back and watch my live stream on the conference call, the earnings call, this last one. But I don't think they overtly said it. They kind of stepped around like that. They were doing trials about this. But your boy did a video back in July about Eli Lilly's acquisition of a company called Versanis. And Versanis had a molecule, a drug called, or actually it's a biologic, I believe. What is it? A monoclonal antibody treatment, I believe, called bimagrumab. And bimagrumab by itself helps people lose weight, but the main thing that it does is that it helps people preserve muscle mass, right? So one of the things that they acknowledged in this call is obviously anytime there's weight loss, a certain amount of it you're going to see in the form of lean muscle mass and not fat itself. And so he acknowledged that with GLP-1s, a lot of times that can be seen in weight loss with GLP-1. So he talked specifically about Eli Lilly's intent to combine the bimagrumab with Tirzepatide specifically. So I thought maybe Retatrutide or Retatrutide, the triple acting. If you don't know what that is, go find my videos on it. I've got really nice organized playlists for you. But we've been talking about that for almost a year as well. Another reason to follow this channel, hit that like, hit that bell, hit that sub. If you're over on TikTok, make sure you hit follow here. All of the best breaking news on Mounjaro and now Zepbound. Thank you for the gifts over on TikTok as well. Sorry, I'm paying less attention to TikTok today, but wanted to be here for y'all as well to share this information. So they overtly said it. It's going to be combined with Tirzepatide. I think that's going to be a very, very interesting combination because it's able to preserve that lean muscle mass. And when you talk about preserving lean muscle mass, that's important, especially as you age. But when you talk about your metabolism overall, your muscles require energy to maintain themselves, right? That's why you lose some of it when you reduce the energy intake. And so it helps you to stay lean, to have muscle on your body because your muscles use up calories. So a very important thing to explore. And they got a little bit into the weeds on that just as far as exploring, basically turning over every stone as it relates to potential treatments for obesity and for chronic weight management. And Eli Lilly certainly has emerged in the last year as the leader in this space. Prior to it was Novo Nordisk. Novo Nordisk was the king of the hill, and really their fumbling and mismanagement of their manufacturing facilities, of their inability to keep up with the demand has really had them stub their toe in a really big way. It'll be a very interesting company to watch. They've got a lot of great things going for them. Every day you turn around, there's great news coming out about like the STEP trials. They just released, they had the top line data a few months ago. Now we have the whole thing. It only looks better, when you talk about another option, or basically an option, a new option to treat heart failure. It's absolutely amazing. Good news that continues to come out about semaglutide, but they just can't keep it on the shelves. And so Eli Lilly swoops in with what some project to be the highest selling medication of all time. And they think they come in lower than Wegovy. So not only can Wegovy not stay on the shelves, it's more expensive. So that takes, from a consumer side, any of the excitement about it out of the equation. So be very interesting to follow Novo Nordisk in the coming months. They have announced a $6 billion investment into expanding manufacturing, but that's about 2 years too late to help us right now. So yeah, that was really the breaking news from my perspective, was just that acknowledgement that they are going to actually be combining Tirzepatide and bimagrumab. That deal was completely finalized with Versanis, so they're moving at warp speed to try to get those two drugs put together. Hey, if you're new here, put an N in the chat next to your name. Let me know that you're new here. I would love to say hello to you. Let me know what medication you're on as well. This is just a conference call recap from a recap of the UBS Biopharma call with Eli Lilly. So they talked a little bit about the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act. This is something that I talk about as well. We need to increase access. There's no time to gripe about the system. The system gave us this medication that we all want so badly. Like, how do we then work within this system to expand accessibility is the question for the grown-ups in the room. So let's talk about that. TROA, Treat and Reduce Obesity Act. Talk to your politicians, your representatives, your congressmen, your senators. Make sure that they know that this is a huge deal for us. Also, welcome to Kelly, Elizabeth, Sonia, and Terry for being new over on TikTok. Make sure you follow the live creator. Follow me over here on YouTube as well. So the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act is going to be really, really important to provide access to obesity medicines. Obesity medicines are not covered through Medicare currently. And so if we can get Medicare on board, a lot of times you see the public sector will adopt something and then the private sector adopts it as a standard. And so if we can really get them on board, would be huge. The Treat and Reduce Obesity Act would do exactly that as it is currently written. So it's also probably important to let them know that not only should they support the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act, but the specific, medications by name, mention them by name and how important it is, educate them, do a little educating. Some of them are starting to get it. I just did a video on that the other day. Let's see, what else did they say about, I don't want to leave our Medicare friends behind. I know there was some information in there. I need to do a standalone video on this topic. And I also need to get a little bit more educated on it as well. Bear with me for just a second. I'm just looking through my notes. I thought I had better notes in here about Medicare. So I apologize. But when you do think about Medicare, we don't have to hitch all of our wagons to TROA. If you think about some of the exciting things that are happening with the other clinical trials that are going on for Tirzepatide, right? Whether it would be Mounjaro or Zepbound, there are clinical trials going on right now that are testing in with hypertension, with sleep apnea, with osteoarthritis. So you talk about those and you talk about the patient population that are on Medicare, those types of things would be covered, right? So it's not like our wagons are entirely hitched to TROA, but the passage of TROA is important because at that point we're relying on these clinical trials to go well, and then the timeline of the receiving the indication, right? Which some interesting news that I gathered here too. This is probably good enough for a standalone video as well. But with the STEP trial, going back to the Wegovy and the heart failure trials, the STEP trials, Novo Nordisk did apply for a fast track priority review voucher, which we've talked about a lot on this channel. It takes 6 months usually to get that approval. So they asked for a fast track what's the word? I just said it. Whatever it is, the priority review voucher for the changing in the label of the medication that it basically can treat those things. So I don't know if you'd call it an indication, but on the label of the medication, the packet insert, things like that it would say that it include that information about the positive benefits of the STEP trial as it related to those with heart failure. So that will be great help for those who are on Medicare to expand access to Wegovy. Ozempic will already be on there for the diabetics, presumably for many people, depending on which program you're enrolled in. But for those who are just looking at it from a weight loss perspective or some of these other things that we've talked about, again, these would be backdoor ways into getting those medications if you are on Medicare. So again, probably a topic for a whole nother video. And remind me, folks, that I owe you a video on this, and we'll get that done. So that's the review. That's the review of this call. Appreciate y'all being here on a Saturday afternoon. I hope that you all are doing well today. Thank you for being here. If you are new, thank you for being here, and thank you all for jumping on this live today. Make sure you share this somewhere. Make sure you check out my new Facebook group. It's Zepbound for weight loss. You want to check that group out. It's growing super fast. And so I'm excited about that because it's just opening the door to more conversation. So if you want to keep that conversation rolling, you can check that out as well. There's also other great places to have conversations. I'll do a little plug for BJ Davis. Haven't heard from him in a while, but you can check out his Discord, davisdiscord.com. We love you, BJ. I hope you're doing well. What else? Is there anything else that I needed to cover today? I don't think so. Excited for this week ahead. More great news every day. Hopefully we'll have some really good news about exactly when Zepbound will hit the pharmacies. I think that you're going to see that in the next 6 weeks-ish, but hopefully we can drill that down a little bit closer. Thank you all for the gifts today. Thank you for being here. You're the best part of what I do here at Man on the Mounjaro. I always say that, but I always mean it. And especially to those who have become members on YouTube, you make this thing happen. A couple bucks a month you throw my way, you can become a member. It's in the description of this video. Thank you for those who do that. And we will catch you on the next stream.